Hello everyone. In this follow-up to our Apache Kafka tutorial, we are going to take things a step further by integrating Kafka with Spring Boot. We have created two separate Spring Boot projects, one for the Kafka producer and other for Kafka consumer. We'll walk through the configuration and demonstration, how they communicate with each other using Kafka. So let's get started. Firstly, we'll have a producer project and we have a consumer project. Let's see how producer application looks like. Here, we have a simple POJOS and controller. This controller is nothing but a simple endpoint is there. Nextly, we have application properties in which we have serializers. These key serializers and various serializers are used so that objects can be converted into bytes and it can be stored in Kafka topics. We also have bootstrap servers as 9029 and the topic name which we are using is interview asset 1. So these are primarily configurations for our producer. On the same lines, we are having configuration for consumers as well. Let's see how they look like. First of all, we'll be having these configurations where payment request is the same POJO that we are having in our producer. In our main class, this will be our annotation, Kafka listener. In that, we need to mention two things, topics and group ID. Group ID is the same thing that we mentioned on our producer side. And topic is also the same one which we entered there. Here we will be having key deserializers, which will convert the byte into objects as we are doing the configuration for consumers. These are the generic configurations which we need for our consumer to work with. Now let's go to the postman and hit a request. Once we go to the postman, we'll be able to see that we cannot hit a request right now. The reason for that is our consumers and producers are not started right now. So let me do that. Let me first start the application of consumer and producer. So here we are starting our producer. Just give it a second. We can see the logs are flowing now and it will be up in a minute. So now let's hit the request once again. So this is a simple JSON payload and it can be created based on any other requirement as well. Now let's see what happens when we hit the requests from the payload. So when we hit the request, our request is successful. We can see that the consumer and producer logs are getting some more entries. Our payment initiation is successful. And we can see there are logs in the consumer as well as producer side. So this is the log on the screen that we can see. This is big log description with various details like amount, transaction, sending account. Let's hit the request once again and see what happens. We'll change some data as well. The request successful, and for the same we are able to see that we are able to observe new transaction ID and new data. And there you have it. We have successfully set up two Spring Boot applications, a producer and a consumer that communicate with each other using Kafka. This setup is the foundation for building more complex distributed system with Kafka. Thanks for following along and happy coding.